Moving into South Dakota Girls action now in Class AA District Championships slated for tonight.
Yeah, and nobody better to talk about that than ESPN 99.1's Brad Peterson. We'll bring on Brad right now. Let's talk a little bit about Lincoln to start with. Darby Huguenin was out with an injury for the last month of the season. She comes back into the lineup. How does that affect Lincoln's chances in the postseason?
Well, it's an interesting story that has really developed with Darby out. You know, she is out January 22nd, second half of an upset win against, at the time, a #1 team in Sioux Falls, Washington. It really added to their depth. One of the girls that really was able to gain some experience was Shelby Merritt. Shelby didn't have to handle the ball when Darby was in the game. Now Shelby had about 5 weeks of being able to run the point, and she's got so much confidence. We saw that in the opening night of the playoffs where she was in the game as a two-guard, but still handling ball with much more confidence than she did in December and early January when she didn't have to be in that position. So I think it really adds to their depth, Jason, that they're just a much stronger team right now with a little extra minutes here and there, including Alexi Hamill, who also gets to get into the ball game. But when they had some injuries, they were able to get a different rotation of girls in, and I think that really added to their depth.
All right, now, Brad, at the beginning of the season, all the championship talk surrounded Mitchell and Washington. But now that we've actually played the season, reached the postseason, who in your mind are the true contenders?
Well, I think, honestly, Mitchell and Washington have to be those two teams that you look at. Aberdeen Century, you can't count them out. And, of course, Sioux Falls Roosevelt. They ended the season, the final two games in the regular season, at Sioux Falls Lincoln with an upset loss there, and then had Marshall come in, did not play well, didn't shoot the ball particularly well. But I still have to tell you that Roosevelt right now, as far as athleticism, they've got, I think, the best starting five of anybody in AA. They're just so athletic. It's just whether they can get the added depth and the extra minutes off the bench and the contribution there. But back to your original question, I really like Mitchell. It just seems like Wes Morgan gets that team to play even harder defense as you get into January and February. And when I saw them against Lincoln at the Corn Palace just a couple of weeks ago, I just thought they looked like a #1 contending team again, ready to go on the line and defend a title.
Okay, Brad, now outside of the top four in AA, do you see a team that could make a run in the postseason?
Right now, Lincoln is a team. It's very interesting. If you want to go the old-fashioned resume-building wins, you know, they've got wins against a #1 Washington team, and they also upset a #4 Sioux Falls Roosevelt, but they lost twice to O'Gorman. Roosevelt doesn't have that resume-building win except 2 wins over Sioux Falls Lincoln. So I really believe it's the top 4. Sioux Falls Lincoln has added some depth. They got Darby Huguenin back. Sarah Ledbetter, she turned her ankle last week after their final regular season game, so she was hobbled coming into the first round of the playoffs, but she had a very strong performance in that first game. So I think with the way the Patriots are playing, and the one player that I really would like to keep an eye out for, not only to the end of this season in the playoffs, but in her junior and senior year coming up in the next 2 years, is a girl by the name of Ellie Breck. She's got a great outside game. She loves to shoot the basketball. Anytime you got a sophomore that will shoot the basketball and shoot it at a high percentage, she's nearly a 50% shooter in about an 8-game stretch this year when Darby Huguenin was out.
All right, and finally, Brad, Washington, of course, came up just short last year. What do they need to do to get back on top?
Well, I really believe that they've got the best depth of all the teams right now. And you take a look at the top 4, top 6 of the contenders in girls AA basketball. Nate Malchow was very happy with the work that his team did over the offseason. And I really believe that they've got the best depth right now. I'm just waiting. They had a stretch of maybe 3 games this year, back to back to back, where they really shot the ball well, including that game against Bellevue East that Saturday afternoon here. And they put a couple of games either side of that together. But since then, I'm still not convinced that they have shot the ball like Nate Malchow believes his team can. They just need to continue to play hard defensively, and I think if they could get a run of 3 games in the state tournament like they had that 3-game stretch where they shot the ball so darn well, that they will be a hard team, especially with their depth.
All right, and once again, he is Brad Peterson from ESPN 99.1 in Sioux Falls. To Class A now, Harrisburg is well known for its football program, but the girls basketball team is actually starting to build its own reputation of success. The Tigers clinched their first ever berth in the state tournament on Tuesday with a 56-37 win over Beersford. Harrisburg now 21-1 overall this season. They're undefeated against Class A competition, and the Tigers have done it in dominating fashion, outscoring their opponents by an average of 29 points per game, and therein, Jason, lies the not-so-well-kept secret to the team's success this season.
Our defense.
Our defense.
Our defense.
We got about 10 girls that we play typically, and I think that really helps us with our style that we're trying to do defensively. We are very up-tempo. We're pretty relentless on what we're doing. We just want to get teams tired, wear them out, and typically in the second half, if we can wear them out, is when we start, starting to see that fatigue. But these girls work hard every day at it. It's a style that we've been really focused on so that we can make sure that teams can get frustrated and we can frustrate them, and it creates some offense for us.
And in addition to Harrisburg, Roncalli and Spearfish secured spots in the State 8 tournament on Tuesday. The Cavaliers topped Millbank for the Region 1 crown, while the Spartans claimed the Region 8 title over Red Cloud. The rest of the field will be determined between tonight and Saturday, and here's a look at those remaining championship matchups. In Class B, though, a couple of teams have already qualified for the State B tournament. Wall and Timberlake will represent Regions 7 and 8, respectively. 3 more spots will be awarded tonight, 2 on Friday, 1 on Saturday. But no question, Jason, the game of the week will be in Region 1 as 21-1 Warner squares off with 2-time defending champion Summit for the second time.
We'll talk a little bit more about that in the pick segment, but they've already squared off this year. So we'll see what happens next time.
All right, stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to go to North Dakota Class B boys basketball and have a visit from Midco SN analyst Juno Pintar. That's next.